Good morning. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. I want to talk today about it all being on you. Got up this morning. By the way, I just put up a video on the Patreon channel with Sheriff Grady Judd of Polk County, Florida, talking about how they handled an active shooter or barricaded subject, and it's kind of, those are associated but not always exactly the same. How they handled it the other day. I don't know if it happened yesterday or the day before, whatever. If you don't know Sheriff Judd, he is a straight shooting breath of fresh air in a modern world of confusion and idiocy, and he puts it out there like he should. And I'll just give you a brief insight into one of the things that he said over there. And he said when he was given his briefing to the media, and he was answering questions, he came right out and said, here's what's going on, here's what happened, here's what we did. And one of the things he says, and we shot him a lot. That's how it should be. If you want to see that, it's on Patreon. The link's down here. You should be on Patreon. First off, welcome to all the new people. It's great to have you. If you are really serious about stuff, you need to be on Patreon, because I'm able to talk about stuff over there that I don't talk about on YouTube, and things are getting more and more dangerous. It's going to be crazier as we go along, and I talk about things that are going to help you be a lot more prepared in an increasingly violent world. You need to know it if you're serious. So join us on Patreon. The link is down there. And for any idiots that say, you just want people on Patreon, that's right, bozo. I want people on Patreon because I want them to be able to hear what I have to say. You know, I've taught many things throughout my career, throughout my life. And nobody ever squawked about, well, you're making me pay to hear what you have to teach. You did pay to go to school. Do you pay to? Okay. So that's just for that one moron that thinks that, well, if you cared about humanity, I love that, because I remember that. If you cared about humanity, you would do all this for free. Well, I can't do this for free, because if I put it on YouTube, they'll never let it out. Okay. So anyway, that's what Sheriff Judd said. He said, we shot him a lot, and and you ought to go over and watch that. Well, it reminded me of a situation that, and the situation that they were in, it reminded me of a situation that I had been in when I first went on, shortly after I went on the sheriff's department. And it was a situation that I've been meaning to talk about for a while, and I was going to put it on Patreon, but I'm going to put it on here. I'm not going to be able to go into the extent that I would on Patreon, but I'll be able to cover the first part, because it has to do with you are on your own. It is up to you. Shortly after I went on the sheriff's department, I came out from the city. I got crosswise of a captain down in the city, and decided that I could either try to fight it out or which wouldn't have worked out at all, or find a place that suited me better, and I did, and I went with the sheriff's department, which was a great move as it turned out. And so I was out there, and I'd come from the city, and I was still in my 6-month probationary period, to where they have you write a county district, to see if you can keep yourself alive before they put you in the dicier areas. So I was writing a county district, and I got a call from the dispatcher. It says, contact the office public service, which is what that meant call them on the phone. Now, we didn't have cell phones back then, so I had to go to a McDonald's and ask them, can I use your phone to call the office? Well, sure, deputy, you can do that. So I call, and the dispatcher answers. I tell him who I am. He says, yeah, there's a guy, we just got a call, there's a guy at such and such of address. He's holding his wife and his kids at gunpoint, and he says he's going to kill the first deputy that shows up. So I says, all right. So I wrote down the address, I says, all right, where's my backup coming from? Now, in the city, and we all went to the same academy. It was a big regional academy, and it was a great academy at the time. I don't know what it's like now, but at the time it was considered one of the top academies in the country. Now down there, we all went to the same academy, so we went through something. We were trained on something called one-man car procedure, and in the city we used that. And what it meant is there were pretty much one man to a car, but when you went on a situation, anything, robbery, anything like this, you always waited till your second car got there, your backup. Always 2 officers. Okay, so naturally I asked, where's my backup coming from? Because out there in the county, I mean, it could take, your closest car could be 20 minutes away. And when I asked that, there was just a brief silence on the phone, and it said, "Hang on a minute." Pretty soon the lieutenant comes on. He says, he didn't call me by name, he called me by my badge number. And do I understand that you're requesting backup? And you could hear, as I've said before, you could hear the derision just dripping from his words, and I immediately recognized my mistake. And I says, oh no, not at all. I just curious. And he said, I'll tell you what, if you get up there and you can't handle it, you give us a call and we'll send somebody who can. So I did. I went up and I handled it. And you know what? While I won't say that happened all the time, it wasn't entirely unheard of during my time on, there were a number of situations like that. And deputies went in and they handled it by themselves. Do you know how many deputies were killed doing that? None. Do you know how many innocent hostages were killed? None. Do you know how many suspects? Well, I won't even go there. I will say that all the suspects were taken care of. Okay, we'll just leave it like that. All the suspects were neutralized and or taken into custody. Now, what's the lesson here? Why am I saying this? We live in a different world. We live in a world that since that time, and I saw the change happen. Oh wow! Within just a few years of when I first went on, things started changing, and it went from handling it yourself and the expectation that you could and should and would handle it on your own by yourself, and even the desire. I mean, hey, it's my problem, it's my district, I'm gonna go take care of it, just like all the other guys are, right? They're doing it, I'm doing it, we're all doing it. It's my problem, go take care of it. And I saw we saw a lot of stuff at the time coming out of Europe as far as hostage situations, and in my mind it was the beginning of globalization of policing. And I won't get into that because that's probably not of any interest to you. But after that, and we did have tactical teams, we had SWAT teams and all that, but the thing is that it's the old, a good plan, exercised immediately and vigorously or violently beats the heck out of a perfect plan later, And sometimes you needed to go take care of that situation, and you didn't have time for the TAC team or the SWAT team to show up. You needed to take care of it because people could be dying in there. Somebody said this. Who said this? I don't remember. But anyway, while you're waiting, people could be dying. You got to go go take care of it. And you know, it's interesting that this is now the new idea with active shooter. You go in and take care of it. Well, that's nothing new. That's what we used to do, for crying out loud. And it was just a matter of a feeling of responsibility. There are innocent people in there in a dangerous situation. Go take care of it. Okay. Now I'm going to stop now, because I will start getting all ticked off if I start on a ranting on what's going on in the world today, or some law enforcement responses or non-responses. What does this have to do with you? What it has to do with is an understanding that it is on you. You've heard this before. Nobody's coming. When it's time for help, nobody's coming. Now, some people say that in an SHTF situation, in a Tiatuaki situation, nobody's coming to help. But in this regard, you have to assume, even if somebody is coming, you have to assume nobody is coming. What if the teachers down at Uvalde had been armed and they figured nobody was coming? By the way, I'm going to put up, I saw a video by an interview with the woman, apparently the mother, who went into the school and down in Uvalde, the first one who was handcuffed and then out. Now, you always have to, you know, take everything with a grain of salt. But when I watched her, I believe that she would fall on the credible side of the balance. Okay. I have not put up the interviews that I've seen with that guy that they say was a Border Patrol agent that went in, because there are so many holes in that I could drive 3 trucks through. I find that on the not credible side. And I look at it with an eye from an investigator. What did he just say? Did that make sense? Did that make sense? Did that make sense? And I've had even my 15-year-old son watched that interview with him and said, well, that doesn't make any sense. And you're right. People are believing this stuff because they want to believe it, instead of with a discriminating eye and ear. So you got to be careful. But I'm going to put that interview up with her because I find it very interesting, and that'll be up on Patreon. I suggest you watch it. But if those people had been prepared, and if they had been armed, whether it was the teachers or a principal or the custodian or the mother who went in there, if they had in their mind, help is not coming, things might have worked out different, because that's what drives you. You see, that's what drives you. When you realize that you're it, you have to take care of it. It's on you. You know, we live in a world now to where everything's about team, right? Everything's about a committee. Everything's about a group. Everything's about you got to work as a part of this. And it's taken away this primary responsibility of the individual. And, you know, there have been multiple psychological tests. That's not the word I'm looking for. One of you will be screaming it right now. Studies done that show that the more people there are in a situation, in an emergency situation, it tends to minimize the individual feeling of responsibility, because there's a feeling that responsibility is shared among the members of the group. Okay, so it's easy for people to go, well, I'm not going to step up and do something. Well, shouldn't we discuss this? What should we do? What should we do? No. What happens? The greatest chance for a proper response is from the individual who says, this is on me. This is on me. It's my job to do. I'm going to go do it. Now, we see how this can apply in other places. That poor man. You know, I don't mean that in a deprecating way. I mean, the guy was younger than I. You know, when I read about people that are 66 years old, grandfather, I think, oh man, that's an old man. Well, the guy's younger than I am, and the one who was killed by that escaped convict down in Texas with his 4 grandsons. You see, and I don't fault him at all. He thought he lived in a safe world. He was going to his getaway cabin with his grandsons, going to have a nice weekend fishing or something. He didn't anticipate that some killer, some convicted murderer who had been allowed to escape from custody was waiting in his house or whatever to ambush him and kill them all. He didn't think about that. But I think we all need to up our game. I mean, some of us live in a state that others consider to be paranoia, and we don't. It's a matter of being careful. It's a matter of being aware of our surroundings. You know, people talk about OPSEC all the time. And people will use the terms head on a swivel, you know, all these popular sayings, but how many people actually live it? Not enough. So if that man had in his mind, the safety of all of us is in my hands, I'm going to check all the boxes, I'm going to make sure that everything's all right. And again, I'm not faulting him because he didn't have a mindset that he lives in this world. And most people don't, but we do live in this world. When you are going about your daily life, here's the point. It's on you. Have you done everything you can to make sure that you can take care of a problem, that can take care of a threat that's coming against you and yours? That's what it's all about. If there are 3 people in the group, each of whom are armed, each person needs to feel it's on me. And there's a there's a tendency, like I say, when groups get larger, the attention kind of diminishes. This is what makes good teams different from bad teams. You know, a bad team, well, we've got, 10 guys here with guns, everything's cool, nobody's going to attack. Well, no, because nobody's ready. Everybody's thinking that. And everybody's ready. I wrote a book, well, doesn't matter. I mean, back, now I'm going to get off into areas that's going to take me too much time to talk about, so I won't. But, you look back in the old days, when we would meet, several of us, to eat lunch, every cop at that table was watching everything. Everything. You didn't rely on anybody else to be watching. I see cops out today, they're not watching at all. They're not watching because they don't come from this mindset. You have to adopt the mindset. You have to do it. You have to realize that it is on you. The whole package is on you. And you got to tune your mind, beginning with understanding it's a dangerous world. It can happen at any time. It can happen when you're going into your vacation cabin. It can happen when you're out in Philadelphia. What was the thing on that last night? 2 dead, 11 injured, because a bunch of morons from a declining culture decided to let her rip and have a gunfight right in the middle of everybody. We see this happening everywhere. It's going to happen more. Here's the thing, very basically. It's on you. You have to prepare to take care of it. If there's somebody in a house, just like the deputies of the old days, if there's somebody holding other people in a house, it's up to you. Go take care of it. If there is a danger to your family or to yourself or to the group that you're with, you take care of it. If you're not armed, if you're not trained, if you are not mentally tuned in, you're not going to be able to. You're just going to be the next victim. Remember that people who aren't able, and that's physically and mentally and emotionally, and that's a whole different topic, who haven't reached that level of ability and capability, are simply victims in a waiting. They are simply people who have not yet been attacked. They're not yet on the rolls of the victims, of the injured and the killed. So, folks, this world is crumbling. I don't have to tell you that. You know that. This world is falling apart. Yeah, it started some time ago, but we don't live some time ago now. We live now, and it's falling apart faster like that. What was that I've said, I know I mentioned this in a previous video sometime, that quote from one of Hemingway's books, and I don't remember which one, and I'm not particularly a fan of his. Might have been The Sun Also Rises, but I'm not sure. Somebody asks another character, how did you go bankrupt? And they said, slowly at first and then all at once. Well, we're living in the all at once right now. I think that was it. It might be slightly off there. Might be slowly at first and then fast, but whatever it is, we are living in the fast and all at once phase. It's been falling apart for a long time, and now you can see from all these active shooters, mass shootings, everything, we see the world has changed. We have to change with it. You have to be ready for the world as it is, not the way you wish it were. And that means you have to be able to defend yourself and those who depend on you. Okay, I'm gonna let it go at that. For anybody who's interested, after I'm done with this, I'm gonna make another one for American Reversion. It'll be over there, and it's about this collapsing society. It's about the shooting in Philly, and what is the difference between mass shootings and just the average night in a big city, and is there any difference, and is it important? So you all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And understanding and accepting the world that we live in and our responsibility to deal with it is the place to start. Join us on Patreon. I hope that you will, because I want you to hear the things that I talk about and see the things that I put up over there, because it will help you to prepare for the world that we're in and the world that we're entering. Y'all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.